glad to be back, and I'm glad to be here with you all. I've been sitting with our practices for the last couple of weeks, and also just thinking more and more about this exploration of this theme, right? Which is this or that. It is what we've been talking about in terms of binaries, right? Binary constructs, the ways that we work so hard in our experience to organize things and to label them and make sense of them, but that ultimately can become really suffocating or confining. And how can we shift into a space of being more expansive in our feelings and our sensations and our bodies and our identities? And today we're going to explore our thinking, our thoughts, and our beliefs. And how can we use, today we'll use another yoga nidra practice to explore how we experience seemingly opposite thoughts and beliefs, how they show up in our bodies, and then what is it like to move our awareness into a more expansive state so that we can feel into more possibility. And one of the things that we know with trauma is that trauma shrinks possibility. It makes our worlds often so much smaller and more confined. And also, we live in a culture that really seeks the pursuit of kind of finite answers, and that looks for the periods instead of the question marks oftentimes. And what we're going to do is sit in the question mark instead, and to be in this practice of ongoing questioning that helps keeps our minds open to the idea that there may be alternatives, that there may be other views and other understandings of our own experience, of our own beliefs. And what a time, I think, to be exploring how we can internally experience sometimes incongruence or even incompatibility in our own thoughts and beliefs. And so I'll invite you to explore some of that with me today as we dive into this practice. And shorter introduction this week, hopefully, so that it leaves more time for the practice itself, so we can have a real embodied exploration of what it is that I'm talking about. And then we will come together after for a little check-in or Q&A, some space for that. So if you are joining again, you probably are pretty familiar with kind of the setup and how we get things going in terms of getting comfortable and things like that. But if you're new, I'll offer just a little orientation. In the yoga nidra practice, we really love for folks to be as comfortable as possible. So you certainly do not have to sit unless sitting is the most comfortable option for you. Otherwise, if you'd like to lie down, I'd really welcome that. If you want to grab pillows or blankets or something, just really support your body, that is completely encouraged. Sometimes that sounds a little different when you're thinking about doing a meditation practice, but comfort is the jam. That's the vibe we're going for. So I'll give you a few moments to, if you're not all ready, to go ahead and get settled and get comfortable. And I'll remind all of us again, or invite you again if this is new to you, this practice, to just share that one of the big intentions in a yoga nidra practice is to be curious and to be welcoming of our experience. And one of the ways that we do that is kind of connected to what I said earlier, which is we kind of sit and stand or lay, if you will, in the question marks instead of the periods. And we will have a variety of different messengers that show up for us throughout our practices. They might be sensations, they may be thoughts or beliefs, they may be emotions that show up, or images, different things. And the idea is that with as little resistance as possible, we kind of welcome. Now, welcoming doesn't mean embracing and accepting. It simply just means this is what's showing up in my experience right now. I'm going to welcome this into my experience. I'm going to notice that it's here without needing to kind of push or shove it away. And then to watch what unfolds and what changes. Of course, if something shows up that really is needing you to change something, also, it's really important that you take care of yourself, and you're the only one that's going to know the best way to do that and when that is really needed. So these are offerings. Everything in this practice is an invitation. You are the best person to determine what feels right and what doesn't for you. So please treat everything that I share as that, as an invitation, as an option for you. All right. So hopefully you've had a little time to settle in and get comfortable. So I'll invite you to take a moment and just notice how you may be feeling supported by the surface that your body is resting on. And if it feels right for you, you may allow your eyes to gently close. If that doesn't, that's okay too. Taking time to settle into a position that feels just right. I'm going to guide you throughout the practice to notice and tune into physical sensations, the breath, emotions, thoughts and beliefs, as is the focus for our practice today. And to notice how you are the one who is the witness of everything happening in your experience. You are the one that is observing all of these things arising and unfolding and changing within your experience. And know too that whatever you experience is perfect just as it is. There's no right or wrong way to do this. There certainly is no this or that or binary in this practice around how it's supposed to go or what it's supposed to be like. You may have things come up that don't feel pleasant or that don't feel good, and that does not mean you are doing anything wrong. So I invite you to bring awareness now to your senses, allowing yourself to rest at ease and to allow my voice to be a guide. As you begin to notice perhaps the taste in your mouth, the sounds around you, perhaps any smells, images or colors behind your eyes. Maybe the touch or the sensation of air on your skin, or a place where you can sense your clothing touching your skin, your senses open and alive. And we're now going to take a moment to just explore a resource for you. If you have been joining us the last week or two, you may have a resource that you've already connected with. And if so, if it feels right, you can bring that into mind. And if not, a resource for you may be an image of a special place to you, perhaps a room that brings you a sense of ease or security or safety. Could be a place in nature, maybe a favorite or significant symbol to you, or an animal. It can truly be anything. And whatever your resource is, start to explore it, imagine it, experience it using all of your senses. As you're aware of your resource, there may be sounds that arise, or smells, tastes, or colors, shapes that may be present. Anything at all, allowing all of your senses to fully explore what this resource is for you. And particularly paying attention to any experiences within your body of ease or well-being as you imagine your resource. And knowing that this is yours and that this resource is available to you at any time throughout your practice, should you wish to return and reconnect with this sense in your body, this experience in your body or in your mind. It's also available to you at any time throughout the rest of your life, should you wish to come back to this place and to this feeling. So knowing that this is available to you anytime that you may want to recall it, you may just allow it to begin to fade into the background, knowing that your resources, your company throughout your practice, and can come back to be with you at a moment's notice. And now I'll invite you to let my voice and the sound of my voice be a guide and just a gentle support as we begin to tune into sensations throughout your body. As I name each area of your body, you may feel sensations that are present, or you may notice nothing at all. Whatever you experience is just fine. Drawing your attention first to the very top of your head, the crown of your head, noticing and welcoming sensation across your scalp and the back of your head and forehead. Noticing and welcoming sensation around the left eye and the right eye, and both eyes at the same time. Noticing and welcoming sensations across the cheekbones, the back of the head, left nostril, and right nostril. Both nostrils at the same time. sensations in the left ear and the right ear. Sensing both ears at the same time. Noticing and welcoming sensations across the front of the neck and the back of the neck and the throat, perhaps the movement or sensation of breath. The upper back, across the collarbones, the left shoulder, left upper arm, forearm, wrist, hand, and fingers, the entire left arm, the right shoulder, right upper arm, forearm, wrist, hand, and fingers, the entire right arm. Noticing and welcoming sensations in both arms at the same time. Sensation in the upper chest, upper back, in the middle chest, and middle back. Sensation in the abdomen and lower back, and sides of the body. Noticing and welcoming sensation in the left hip, upper leg, knee, lower leg, ankle, foot, and toes. Sensation in the entire left leg at one time. Sensation in the right hip, upper leg, knee, lower leg, ankle, foot, and toes. The entire right leg at one time. Noticing and welcoming sensations in both legs at the same time. Allowing yourself to notice your entire body as this field of sensation. Aware of all that is now present within your awareness. Noticing you as the one who is aware of everything that has been and is present throughout your body. And now becoming aware of the body breathing itself, the flow of the breath, the sensation in the nostrils, perhaps in the throat. The sensation of breath, perhaps as your belly or your chest rises and falls as you breathe in and out. No need to change anything at all. Simply noticing the body breathing naturally at a rhythm and a pace that serves your body in this moment. The body rising with your in-breath and releasing with your out-breath. Simply noticing the movement and sensation of breath in your body. Remembering too that at any time you can recall your resource if you are wishing or needing to come back to this sense of security and ease in your body. So now invite you to bring your attention with intention to some thought or belief that perhaps you have been working on in your life. Perhaps this is a thought or belief that you hold to be true about yourself, or a thought or belief that you have show up in your life that perhaps presents some challenge to you at times. And take a moment to just notice what that may be, to locate that thought or that belief. Again, something that perhaps presents, again, some challenge. As you become aware of what this thought or belief is for you, allow yourself to welcome in any messengers that accompany it. So perhaps sensations in the body, maybe emotions, feelings, images, knowing that there may be some company that joins this thought or that joins this belief in your experience. Remaining curious to whatever it is that shows up, and then allowing yourself to fully explore as you hold this thought or belief to be true in this moment. How does it show up in your body? What do you notice? What sensation do you notice, and where do you notice in your body? Are there feelings that arise as you hold this thought or belief to be true? Giving yourself a few moments to fully explore what arises as you sit with this thought or belief. And as you're ready, I'll invite you to pause for a moment to allow this thought or belief to begin to quietly fade into the background. And then ask yourself, if this belief, if this thought had an opposite, what would it be? And then as you're ready, invite this thought or belief into your awareness as you hold in this moment that it is true. And holding awareness again in this moment that this thought or belief is true. Welcoming and noticing, getting curious about what shows up in your experience. Sensations in the body, emotions, other thoughts or beliefs. Remaining curious about how this is experienced. Taking whatever time you may need here. And when you're ready, pausing again and inviting the original thought or belief that you were working with back into your awareness, holding both of these thoughts or beliefs at the same time. And then slowly and at your own rhythm, at your own pace, moving your awareness back and forth between these opposite thoughts or beliefs in your body, holding one to be true and then the other, gently moving back and forth several times, one and then the other, back and forth. After you've had a chance to do this several times, again, there's no rush here. Take the time that you need. This is your practice. I'll invite you to pause one more time and hold both thoughts or beliefs simultaneously. Notice what happens now. What is just beyond this or that thought or belief? Are there gradients or shades that show up? Are there perhaps other possibilities that feel more expansive or more fluid? What feels scarce? What feels abundant? Aware of all that is now present within your awareness, feeling yourself as the one who is observing and noticing everything as it arises, it unfolds, it changes, it falls away. Experiencing yourself as the one who is aware of all sensation, emotion, thoughts, and beliefs. Allowing all of this to begin to wash away, to fade into the background. Returning your awareness for a moment to any sensations in your body that may feel like well-being or pleasure or ease, joy, security. And allowing yourself to fully orient towards that feeling in your body. It may be something so small, maybe even just neutral, and that's okay. Your experience is fine and perfect just the way it is. Allowing any of this sensation to grow as it expands throughout your body, throughout your awareness. Carrying with you to this knowing that your resource is available to you now, at any moment, throughout the rest of your day, throughout the rest of your life. That you have this ally or this accomplice walking with you as you begin to also shift now into a more conscious and alert state, feeling into your body, perhaps finding just the tiniest bit of movement. Maybe that's a wiggle in your fingers or your toes, or maybe a gentle rock of your head from side to side, if that feels right. Or a stretching out of your arms, finding ways for your body perhaps to move or take up a little more space. Maybe your eyes blink open. Allowing your body to take a fuller in and out breath, orienting to here, to now, to the room. And then perhaps before really fully ending your practice, also taking a moment of gratitude for yourself, for taking this time, for honoring yourself in this way. And also I extend gratitude to you for showing up for yourself in this way, and also for joining me. So thank you for being here. We're going to shift here and just check in if there's any comments or questions or things that people want to share. It can be a little tricky to shift out of that state into a more kind of thinking place, but here we are. So if you want to join us in that, great. And if not, you can just kind of marinate wherever you are, if that feels right.
I've really been learning a lot, seeing myself really differently. They've been so helpful. But it does take a minute to wake up, doesn't it?
It does. Thank you for sharing that, Mary. Yeah, it's interesting, right? We hold so much at odds with each other internally and externally. And when we hold, sometimes we forget that what happens if multiple things are true at the same time? Or what if there's a whole another world out there beyond these things that we feel, so curious when we do this to learn too about what thoughts and beliefs come up with for people. They're often negative beliefs about ourselves, or perhaps a negative belief that we have about the world. And even in that, using the word negative, right? There's a negative positive there, but something maybe that we feel like doesn't serve us or comes from someplace else. So exploring it is as it's just an invitation, an opportunity. So I know that Casey asked a question here about speaking to my understanding of people pleasing as it pertains to the nervous system. Yeah. So what you're referencing is a fawn response. And we've done, I think, a better job in recent years of acknowledging that as sometimes a trauma response. And I really think of it as an adaptive relational response. It's one of the ways that we learn to adapt to people and relationships for a variety of different. It's hard to get into it in great depth now. But what I will say is that, I hold some curiosity if that maybe connects with a thought or belief that came up for you. Even thinking about how I work with folks sometimes when their belief is like, it's my job to make sure that everyone's okay. Right. And so sitting with that and like, what does that mean? And then what does it mean if you sit with the opposite of that or some spaces in between? So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but I think it invites a whole nother dialogue that we could dive into.
What would maybe a good resource be if someone wanted to follow up with that?
Yeah, great. So irest.us is a good website if you're interested in irest yoga nidra. So they've essentially created kind of a more modernized, if you will. This is a very ancient practice. It's a beautiful practice with a lot of history. So there's, I think kind of tending to the modern mind or the modern context that they do well. There's lots of great practices there. That could be a place to start. There's all kind. If you do a good Google search, you can find lots of good practices on YouTube and on SoundCloud and places like that as well. Yeah. And then if you're interested in exploring some more of the kind of what we often call deconstructing binaries, and you'll hear a lot of this kind of discussion taking place, particularly around gender identity and sexuality. And it extends into all areas of our life, of identities and also just how we kind of think and feel. There's some great stuff that you can find. People have written a lot, particularly around gender, but I would say you can apply it to everything in the ways that we get kind of trapped in these black and white, good or bad ways of thinking. So it's kind of a step into a deeper practice and exploration, if you will. Any concern with using the opposites? That's such a good question. Sure. Yeah, I think sometimes we can invite some real challenge internally when we do that. And sometimes there are parts of us that I think can feel reinforced, right? Like there may be a part of us that's like, I got to double down on this belief, because if you're trying to challenge me or make me think something, it's like no different than if you think about having a discussion with someone who has different beliefs than you externally, right? With another person, that same thing can happen internally where we can get a little head buddy or we can dig our heels in and have a harder time. And that's part of the reason why I like to do this practice of holding both at the same time, because you're saying like, this isn't about having to erase something. It's not about having to exile or push away some part of ourselves. It's about getting curious about where do these come from, right? Like, what are the origin stories of our thoughts and beliefs as applied to our practice today? And it's not about using an opposite to erase or challenge the other. It's simply about noticing that that there are this whole multitude, there's this nuanced and complex way that we can understand things that moves beyond the this or that, as we've been talking about. I hope that, Sean, let me know if that answers your question. But thank you. Thank you for having me. Thanks everyone for joining us. I look forward to seeing you, those of you who can join us next week.